Saturday afternoon edition of the Anaheim Calling Podcast. We are here to discuss the Ducks game this morning against the Philadelphia Flyers. Last game of this long, painful, dreadful road trip. The Ducks dropped this one 6-2 to the Flyers in the first game in a long time where you can say that the Ducks kind of played a decent hockey game.
They were all right. The Ducks were all right.
They were not as bad as the score indicated.
Yes.
That being said, they still lost 6-2. They still didn't play well enough to win, probably.
This is probably the first game of this road trip and this losing streak, to be honest, where you could probably at least look at the game and say, hey, at least they were in this game. I mean,
at least they had a pulse.
There were points in time where it looked like they were kind of dead to their rights, that they were out of this game, that they were as bad as they were in previous games. But I think that this game, more so than other games, at least they bounced back and had some positive signs of life in it, which is, I guess, a positive if you want to say that at least they responded somewhat to what amounted to a pretty horrible start to the game for the team in the way they played. And after that, if you look at kind of a lot of different various stats, it kind of looked like at least they were pushing the Flyers a bit and creating chances and not just kind of receiving the game fully. I mean, that happens when you're down 4-0 though, early on in the game.
Right.
And we'll get
Score
into
effects.
the score and everything. Yeah, there's score effects, and that's bound to happen. If you adjust this game for score, and I'll eventually start showing this stuff to everyone watching this live when we get through the full recap, but it's not as pretty for the Ducks when you adjust it for score effects.
And that's the thing, is that if you adjust for the Ducks kind of having to push back, which, by the way, they haven't been doing in recent games. When they get down, they just kind of roll over. The biggest positive you can take away from this game is that the Ducks did not completely roll over and showed some signs of life. And also, I guess we should mention that Corey Perry is looking pretty good in his return.
Yeah, I think that this may have been Perry's best game since returning to the lineup. He had some really nice moments in this game where you looked at it, and I've obviously had my concerns about Corey Perry in terms of basically in terms of him coming back to the lineup too soon.
Right.
And
it looks like he's ready.
It looks like he's ready, and he had one specific move, I believe it would have been in the second period there, where he had the puck out wide and kind of drove to the front of the net and did the typical Corey Perry thing where he almost backed his way into the crease and tried to pull the puck with him, and Carter Hart made a really nice save on the play, but it was one of those, and granted it's a single play and we shouldn't judge an entire game off a single play, but it's one of those where you don't make that play if you're still worried about your knee, if you're still worried about being able to put pressure on that leg, because you're going to get hit there. And so Perry had one shot on goal tonight, one shot attempt for, two shot attempts for, two scoring chances, one high danger chance. So not exactly overall great, but I think we saw signs from him.
Right, exactly. And on the night, Corey Perry played just under 16 minutes, so they're still, I don't think that they're still trotting him out there constantly, but at least he's getting his run in, and I do think that's a big positive for the Ducks. If not for this season, then definitely next season, that Corey Perry still looks like a functional NHL player, which you can't really say about Ryan Kessler right now, who only played 11 minutes tonight, 11-20.
Yep, and he was demoted to fourth-line duty tonight. They made mention of it on the broadcast, where in the previous game, he had been playing with Devon Shore and Jakob Silverberg, I believe. I believe that was the line. And he was actually taken off that line tonight and put on a line with Derek Grant and Brian Gibbons. So he was actually demoted from the third line to the fourth line. I mean, it's hard to argue that he deserves any other spot in the lineup at this point in time. I mean, he played 5 minutes and 55 seconds tonight at 5-on-5. Like that, I mean, it's insane that that's happening because of everything we've seen with the way that the team has used Ryan Kessler in the past, but it's hard to argue that he should be used in any other way. But here's the interesting thing. Guess what his total minutes in all situations were if he played 5 minutes and 55 seconds at even strength?
Well, he played 11 minutes, 11-20.
11-20. So he played
4 of those minutes on the PK.
And that's, I think, a concern. That's a concern when you have a guy that is supposedly, I think it's a concern that you have a guy who is playing essentially fourth line minutes for you, and he's getting almost as many of those minutes as he's getting at 5-on-5 as on the penalty kill. I don't know.
Well, it's concerning in that that's all that he can do, but is this not his proper role, a penalty killing fourth liner at this point?
Should he be used that much on the penalty kill, though?
I mean, look, he won. I hate to say this because now I'm sounding like people who tend to annoy me, but he won 64% of his draws tonight, and on the penalty kill, there is some value to that. So, I mean,
should he be playing the second most minutes though on the team on the penalty kill?
I mean,
if you want to send him out there,
think about what a center. Right, but think about what a center does on the penalty kill. I mean, you're not skating up and down the rink. You're pretty much in one confined area, and you have to win some battles in front here and there. I mean, it's not – to me, this is the role he should settle into. I mean, I think I agree with you. It's concerning, but I don't think we're seeing the concern in the same way. I think it's concerning in that, yeah, this is kind of all he can do now. But I also think – that this is the right niche for him, the penalty killing fourth liner who can win some faceoffs when they're down a man. I mean, maybe he shouldn't play this much. Maybe that's also a product of how many penalties the Ducks took tonight. I don't know.
That's true.
I think this is, I mean, they took 5 penalties tonight, right? And so
yeah,
I think that this is the proper role for him.
Yeah. I mean, Varluna in our Twitch chat says Kessler is going to be the new Vermette, good for faceoffs and not much else.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue he's been that for a little while now. And Antoine Vermette just retired, so make of that what you will. I couldn't help but chuckle because our friend Totally Offsides, Chip, just tweeted a screenshot, just minus 55. Just screenshotted the Ducks
goal differential. Also, we should, 2 things I wanted to mention. It's nice to see some daylight as we're doing a podcast. It's been a long time since we've done one that's not in darkness.
We've had opportunities to do them during the day, but the weekend games, the matinees, we've ended up doing them on a Sunday night as a recap. So, yes, it is nice to have a little daylight here.
The other thing worth mentioning, the LA Kings are officially above the Anaheim Ducks in the standings.
Oh, Lord.
It's officially happened. It's officially happened. Yeah. I mean, it's both.
The Ducks are now last in the Pacific Division. Or sorry, in the Western Conference. But hey, they're 4 points away from a playoff spot.
Is that still true right now? I'm trying to actually look at the wild card.
It is true. The St. Louis Blues have 55 points and the Ducks have 51.
Are the Blues winning right now? The Blues are winning right now, though.
Yeah, and I mean the Blues have 4 games in hand on the Ducks. So, I mean, they're so bad. Anyway, another thing I wanted to address before we hop into this recap. So, this is going to sound a little speculative, and I want to preface what I'm about to say with that, because I get irked sometimes when people speculate. So I'm going to fully admit here that this is speculation. But Patrick Hughes has missed the last 3 games with flu-like symptoms, and he is now on injured reserve. What's the rule on that? Is it that if you're on IR, you can't play for 10 days, right?
It's either let me double check.
Okay. But I'm not totally wrong there, right?
Yeah, you have to sit a certain amount of games.
So how bad is this flu?
I mean, I don't know. It has to be pretty decent. But yeah, it's weird. I don't know if I've ever heard of a guy going on IR for the flu or sickness. I mean, the benefit of doing it is if he is sick, then it opens up a roster spot. Because then you can go to 24 men on your roster technically. But yeah, it's interesting. Joshua's data said 10 should be 10 days. I'm just going online and confirming that.
I'm pretty sure it's 10 days.
Minimum of 7 days. A player.
Minimum of 7 days.
This is from Hockey Operations Guidelines at NHL.com. Said a player who has an injury that renders him physically unable to play for a minimum of 7 days after that date of injury can be placed on the club's injured reserve list.
Look, all I'm saying is he could very well have the flu, but maybe they just don't want to say he's injured again. I don't know. I mean, the guy literally cannot stay healthy, and I'm not holding it against him. I mean, it happens, and some people are just prone to it, but that is just, man, that's not a good sign. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And again, I could just be totally speculating here. He could just be sick, but I haven't seen too many guys placed on IR for flu-like symptoms.
Yep. I can't exactly disagree with you there.
And again, it could just be circumstantial. It could just be, you know what, we're getting torched anyway. Let's keep him out. But man, if he could play, I feel like he would. You know, I feel like he's the guy who would battle through it. So anyway, any other news here before we get into the game? I guess the other bit of news is that John Gibson was listed as a healthy scratch tonight, but I mean,
not healthy. The club said he is not playing due to an upper body injury. He's not placed on IR though, so it's not a healthy scratch, but he's not on IR. He had to be scratched.
So I mean, there's something there. I mean, it's not just that he got bumped, last game. I mean, he's dealing with something, and again, not overly encouraging, but I guess it did offer us a glimpse at Kevin Boyle tonight. What did you think of his performance?
I thought he was good. This is probably the first time I've actually really watched an extended period of Kevin Boyle, to be honest. I've watched some goals games here and there, but when I'm watching the goals, I'm not exactly watching Brian Boyle or not.
It's okay,
Kevin
Jake.
Boyle.
We know who you're watching. You don't have to clarify that.
Yeah, everyone knows. I thought he looked good. I thought he looked pretty. He looked pretty calm in the net. His positioning was pretty sound. I think the only thing that really was noticeable was he had one mistake that he's probably going to want back. I guess we'll just jump to that right now. The second goal he gave up was a shot from the point that hit him in the chest, and he just really couldn't control the rebound, and it pops out in front of the net, and it ends up being put in the net by the Flyers player that was standing there. And so it's one of those where it was just poor rebound control. It seemed like a pretty harmless shot to begin with, and he's just got to do better to control that rebound. But I think we saw a fair amount from him, and I think that's a good sign because, I mean, he needs to view this right now as this is his
shot. It's his chance.
This is his chance. I mean, the Ducks right now have Ryan Miller. He's not under contract for next season, and so the Ducks backup goaltending role for next season is completely up in the air, and it's for grabs. And so if Kevin Boyle really wants a shot at taking that role, he's got to impress right now. And if he does, that's a good sign for the Ducks because he's cheap next year. He's, I think, making $650K, right around minimum wage or minimum in the NHL, minimum salary. And so the Ducks are going to need that moving forward. John Gibson going on to his new contract. They're going to need a guy that can provide about 20 or 30 games at a very low salary, around $1 million or less, just because of the way that the salary caps is and the salary cap system is. When you have a guy making as much as Gibson's going to be making, you got to find some value in your backup goaltending to both give you games and be on a cheap contract. And so if Kevin Boyle can do that and give them that over the next couple seasons while they're waiting for guys like Ole Eriksson Ek and Durney and those other and Dostal to kind of really develop and come into a spot where they can become the backup for about a couple years, then that's a really good thing for the Ducks.
Undrafted college free agent has spent the last 3 seasons in San Diego, not really putting up great numbers this year for the Gulls, but the last 2 seasons posted a .920 plus save percentage in each of his first 2 seasons in the AHL. Played 1 season with Utah of the ECHL. He's a guy who has no NHL experience. I mean, tonight was his debut, posted a .923 in his debut. Here's my question to you. Does he start Wednesday against Vancouver? I mean, why not is my thought, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. I mean,
what has Chad Johnson given you? Unless Ryan Miller is able to play Wednesday.
That's where I'm going with this, is Miller was on this trip with the team, and and they have a couple days off. Like, there's enough time off where Ryan Miller can conceivably become ready to play. It's not as if they're playing again tomorrow. It's not as if they're playing Monday. They have 3 days off before their next game. So they're going to fly back from Philadelphia probably this afternoon back to Orange County, and then they're going to have some time. And so Miller's going to have time to get his workouts in and potentially be ready to go for Wednesday.
Right. I think we could very well see Ryan Miller make a return Wednesday, but if he's not ready to go, if he needs a couple more days, I would just roll the dice with Kevin Boyle because, to be honest, Chad Johnson hasn't shown anything at all. I mean, he's been placed in a nightmare situation, so I will make sure to mention that. This has not been easy for him, but he hasn't shown me anything that says he's a guy you can trust for an extended period of time.
Yeah. Someone wanted me to look or let them know how Dostal is doing this year. So
he just got traded, actually.
He got loaned. loaned.
Right.
He was traded and then loaned to that team's second division team. Or sorry, he
So
was loaned.
he went from the Czech league to Sweden, I believe.
Finland is what it looks like. But
Or Finland.
in 24 games played in the Czech second division, he has a 915 save percentage in 24 games. And then let me just really quickly look up Ole Eriksson X stats because they wanted to. Who was this? Bionic wanted to know how he was doing this year. So give me one sec. Checking it out on Elite Prospects, where Felix has a couple different articles up on there.
Yeah, you should check that out.
Ole Eriksson Ek this year in 14 games, I believe in the Swedish second division, not too great. 14 games played, 899 save percentage.
Bust. Just kidding. All right, so let's get into tonight's recap. Anything else you want to cover before we jump into the recap here?
Not really. I don't really think a whole lot's happened since we last recorded. I mean, I guess we can probably make mention real quick. We officially did break 200 on Patreon, so we will officially have the Patreon watch party for all of you patrons out there. Go check out the website, the Patreon website. There is a poll up right now for when that watch party will be, and just want to give a huge shout out to all of you out there. Really, really thankful from the bottom of our hearts for all the support you guys have given us. And if you want to be a part of that watch party, go and become a patron. Pretty much, it's going to be for patrons only.
Yes, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And if you do want to come to our watch party, we don't know yet when it'll be, but like Jake mentioned, there's the poll in our Patreon account, patreon.com/acpod. We will make this happen. So if you want to be there, make sure to come out because it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to become a patron. Anyway, that being said, again, in a game where the Ducks had an opportunity to end the road trip on a positive note, and especially given the way that they've come out the last few games, what I've been the most critical of is that they just lose the game in the first period constantly. Yeah. They come out so flat, and wouldn't you know it, the same thing happened again tonight. First goal of the game from Phil Varone. Ryan Kessler loses him in front. The pass comes out to the slot. He's able to bury it 1-0, just not even 3 minutes into the game. 8 minutes later, Sean Couturier gets a little lucky here. I think this is one that you can honestly blame Chad Johnson. I mean, it's a pretty well-defended play. The pass from Konechny, I believe, goes right into Couturier's skates, but he whacks at it, and it somehow goes post and in. Bit of a lucky goal. I guess you want to see Johnson make that save, although, again, it's kind of just a freak play. But this is probably the worst one, I would say. God, this is awful, just looking at the replay again. Cam Fowler loses the puck in his skates at the opposing blue line. This is when Anaheim is on the power play, has an opportunity to make it a 2-1 game, right? And at 2-1, it's a normal hockey game.
Yep.
Flat starts happen, but 2-1 is normal. All we're asking is normal at this point. We're not asking for the Stanley Cup. I mean, Lord knows that's not going to happen. But Cam Fowler losing his skates and then just blindly tries to dump it, get it deep, even though he has three guys around him he could easily pass to. The puck goes right back to the Flyers, and then Michael Raffl is able to get the puck. He leaks out for a shorthanded breakaway. And then, of course, that becomes a somewhat of a 2-on-1, but Fowler is just so far away from Raffl, isn't able to apply pressure. He's able to just bury it. I mean, yes, it wasn't the hardest of shots, but when a guy's wide open in the circle like that, I'm not going to blame the goalie there. You just can't. It was not well defended. It was not a good play by Fowler. That would make it 3-0. And then really the backbreaker, I mean, I believe it was just a minute later. Let's see here. Oh, shoot, I don't have it up. But anyway, the Flyers would make it 4-0 before the end of the first period.
Lindblom.
And yes, Lindblom. And that was the backbreaker. I mean, it felt like the Ducks had chances. I mean, they were swarming the net. Corey Perry, like we mentioned, getting feisty in front. But at 4-0, you're just thinking, man, I mean, it felt over after the first period. However, like we mentioned off the top here, the Ducks did show at least some signs of life. An early power play in the second period. Ryan Getzlaf makes a really nice cross-ice feed against the grain, and Adam Henrique is able to collect the rebound from the Nick Ritchie shot. He's left wide open in front. That would make it 4-1, so at least they pushed back early. And then another power play goal. Just a shocker, the Ducks' power play is so productive. Nick Ritchie gets a pass, and really nice pass from Ryan Getzlaf from across the ice. Gets it in the circle, the left circle, shoots it far side, goes in, makes it a 4-2 game. And at that point, I mean, are you thinking comeback?
Not really. I mean, here's the thing with this game. We mentioned it off the top, but the Flyers go up 4-0. The Ducks do end up playing well and pushing back, and getting some chances, but it was 4-0 at that point. It was kind of gone. Yeah. But I think there are some positives you can take, and I think the biggest one that you can take away is this Ducks power play that had kind of been, I mean, there's no other way to put it. They've been crap. They at least showed some signs of life. And in the 2 power plays that the Ducks got after the first period, basically after they allowed the shorthanded goal, they scored goals on both of them. And I think that's important. And I think the big thing to kind of take away from that is that they're finally using the power play in the correct way. And sorry, actually, they had 3 power plays because after the first power play goal, it was challenged for offside, was deemed that it was a good goal, leading to the Ducks actually getting another power play right off the bat, and they did not score on that one. But I think that we finally are seeing the correct power play setup, at least for the first power play. You don't have Ryan Kesler on that first unit, which is a good sign. And as I was kind of clamoring for way back when Kesler was on that first unit, and it really just kind of felt really poorly set up, they finally put Adam Henrique and Nick Ritchie on the first unit. They finally did that, and good things happen. And as I've mentioned, like, Ritchie provides you what you want on the power play. He can give you that net front presence. He's had a pretty good year so far in terms of scoring. He's set to break his career high in points, career high in all other stats, and he's looking dangerous. And on that second goal, part of it is Ryan Getzlaf had a I'm Ryan Getzlaf and you're not moment. There's no other way to put it. That pass was just an insane pass. Went through the entire box, found Nick Ritchie on the other side, but it was a great shot by Ritchie to beat Carter Hart. And it's finally set up correct. They finally don't have Ryan Kesler on the first unit, and now granted he was used on the second unit tonight, but at least I guess the positive is that the setup on the first unit is correct now. If anyone's kind of looking for a positive to take out of this game, outside of embracing the tank.
Right. I mean, that's the thing with this game. I mean, Nolan Patrick would eventually make it 5-2. The Flyers are able to put this one away. But if you look at the chances, I mean, the Ducks were able to generate some offense. Some of their pairings had really good games. Again, it's just a matter of coming out and just not blowing it in the first period. I don't know how else to put this. I mean, if they can just start better, this sounds so arbitrary, but if they can just play better first periods, they've shown in these games that they can somewhat turn it around. And so if they can just do that, it's the old adage, play a 60-minute game. I mean, they may win a game at some point. That's my hot take, is that if they don't allow 4 or so goals every first period, they may actually have a chance to win games. That's my big take from this.
And I'm about to show everyone from Natural Stat Trick the heat map and the game flow chart. So as you can see, the Ducks did a much better job from the heat map perspective. If you're looking at where the shots were allowed from, they did a good job actually tonight of keeping it more towards the outside, not allowing the Flyers to get as much on the inside, at least on 5-on-5. And the Ducks did a decent job actually getting to the good spots. And if you look at the game flow, you can see that the Ducks actually did a good job after basically the beginning of the game of kind of keeping it in control. But this is kind of what I was talking about. So when you see the SVA there that I'm about to click, that means score and venue adjusted. That means adjusting it for what typical percentage are when you're winning or losing a game, to adjust for the fact that when you're losing in a game, you're going to start going and going and going. And the other team
sits back a bit.
And so when you do that in this game, you can see there's the change, that the Flyers still, when you adjust it for the score, were the better team. And in terms of just pure shot attempts. And now here's kind of the interesting thing, and you and I were talking about this, the expected goals. The Ducks did do a good job there tonight. You look at expected goals for the team. They ended the night with a 5.72 expected goals on the night. You look at a heat map from there for scoring chances. You can see a lot of the scoring chances for the Ducks were from right in front of the net. You look at total expected goals. You can see Jakob Silfverberg individually had 1.42 expected goals based upon where he got shots. Ritchie had 1.02. So I think overall this was a decent game from the Ducks, but I don't know how much positive I want to take away from it simply due to the fact that they were down 4-0 to start, and so they had to
Right.
push.
And the Flyers are not this stalwart defensive unit either. I mean, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
This wasn't a game against. They didn't do this against a Winnipeg or something like that.
Yes, agreed.
But look, let's try to find the positive here. I will say that this game, the first game in a long time, where it feels like at least the Ducks showed us something. Now you can quibble with what that thing was, but at least they didn't just completely roll over. I guess that's the most you can say. All right. Anything else you want to mention on this game, or do you want to get into some questions here?
I don't really think there's anything else to really talk about. I think Carter Hart looked good for the Flyers. I think that's a takeaway you can have. I think that he's challenging now at least and getting his name into the conversation for the Calder, which is interesting when it was pretty much preset that it was Elias Pettersson's race to lose, and now I don't think Carter Hart's really done enough to get himself into that race, but I think that he's at least has his name mentioned in that same conversation.
Yeah, I mean it's a 2-horse race right now between Kotkaniemi and Pettersson.
Just stop. Just stop.
By the way, the one distinction the Ducks have is that they are bottom of the league right now in total scoring chances against, but second to last in high danger chances against.
Hey, positives.
Yes, we're really stressing those
tonight. All right, so
today.
For those of you listening to the recorded version or watching the recorded version, as this show, today's show actually, we're going to throw up on YouTube also. We do a live stream of this show each and every time. We do it at twitch.tv/Anaheim Calling SBN. If you want to watch us live and interact with us live, see what we're doing, see all the game flow charts, different things like that, and also ask us questions as we're going along, you can find us there. And there's also a way for you to support us at Twitch that's completely free to you if you have Amazon Prime. With Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime subscription each and every month. And you do have to hit that subscribe button after 30 days if you are using Twitch Prime, but it does help us out and helps us out more than you can know. And so we have that as an option for you. And with that, you get a special emote in the chat and you get a special badge next to your name. So let's start with this question from Bionic. They asked, do we finish the season with any rookies with the big club?
Maybe for the last week of the season, but I don't think we will be seeing them during this next stretch run. I think maybe for the last 10 games.
Yeah.
So maybe. I guess my answer is maybe.
My whole opinion on that, I feel like the hot topic du jour right now is all the goals need to stay with the goals. Dallas Eakins need to stay with the goals because
they have a chance.
They have a chance to win the Calder Cup. And I really do believe that bringing up those players that you believe have a shot with the goal or with the Ducks next season, getting them some NHL experience can be important, and getting them more time with the team can be important. And then you send them down for the Calder Cup run, even if it's like 10 games. I think that really can make a big difference.
Right. Well, I've mentioned this before, but the goals are not a lock to make the playoffs.
No,
yet. And so
that's why 10
I think
games.
Well, those 10 games can make the difference. So, they need to lock down a playoff spot before they potentially need to be comfortable in a playoff spot. I don't know. I don't think it's worth it personally. They've gotten plenty of games this season. They've gotten experience. Let them finish it out in a positive environment. Keep them away from this toxic mess and bring them in next season. I don't really see much upside to bringing them in this season. They've all gotten to play. Everyone has gotten to play. How many more games do they need to really, I just don't see the upside.
I think bringing Steele back up would be good.
Maybe. I don't know. He didn't really do a whole lot when he was with the Ducks, and he's playing an important role for the goals right now. So,
all right,
bring him in next season.
So we got a question from Fish asking, will the Ducks ever win a game again this season? Do we even want them to win a game?
I'm going to bet on yes.
Yes.
Don't feel great about it, but I'm betting on yes.
Yeah, and I think as much as I'm fully on the board of lose for Hughes, I'd like to see them win a game again. I'd like to have
Really?
A happy feeling at some point in time. It's not even the fact. Here's the thing. For me, it's not even the results at this point. It's just watching them play an entertaining game.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, this is an entertainment product, and you would like to be entertained by it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. 100% agree. Dark Purity asks, do we keep Sprong or should we?
Yeah. I mean, he's shown enough. I don't know if he stays around long term. Maybe you flip him for something, but he's shown enough to where once this team is good again, he can be maybe more of a depth guy, not a guy you have to rely on. But he's shown enough to me where, I mean, there's still things in his game he needs to round out. But I think he has a seat at the he has a seat at the table. I guess
I think he's the best way to put it. I think he's more impactful than Pettersson. Also, I think that trade comes out pretty nice.
Well, that's the thing is that he just has upside. I mean, as long as you have a guy who can score, make things happen, it just makes more sense to keep him around.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to this question that came from NJ Devils fan 68 says, do we think that Dallas Eakins is the next coach of the Ducks? Sorry, we had some robot Felix come in. Summarize what you just said. Summarize what you just said.
So I think he's the favorite, but I don't think it's a lock, is what I'll say.
George says, are you trying to speak French right now?
I'm just saying he's not a lock.
No, with the fact that it was full robot Felix coming in.
Right, yeah. No, I'm just saying I don't think it's a for sure thing.
All right, so here we go. This says STFU Shane on the coaching topic. What other coach gets canned when Randy Carlyle finally leaves? If Dallas Eakins come in, will he start over with the new staff, or will he take over the new staff, or take over the old staff?
I mean, I think he may keep Marty Wilford around, just because. I mean, they have that chemistry there from before. And as far as Mark Morrison is concerned, that I don't know. I would just can everyone personally. I mean, I don't know what kind of job Marty Wilford's done this season. They're the worst defensive team in the league, and he's the defensive coach. I would be fine showing him the door and letting Dallas Eakins bring in some new guys. I would just fire everyone personally, except the goalie coach. That's the only person I wouldn't fire.
Yep. All right. Hockey Boys asks, or not really a question, but says that he needs a hot take from both of us. Give me a hot take.
I think this isn't really a hot take, but I could see Ryan Miller being back next year.
I could see it happening.
Yeah, I think that there's just, if he can still play, why wouldn't they bring him back?
Yeah. It's not really a hot take. It's just a prediction. I think Silfverberg, if he gets traded, to the Leafs.
Maybe. I think the Leafs might be done.
They could use a winger that kind of does what Silfverberg does. You put him with John Tavares. You put him with Nazem Kadri.
Well, my hot take. This isn't really a hot take, but I think he's getting traded. I don't buy that they're. I mean, I buy that they're talking about an extension, but I don't buy that it's going to happen.
Yeah,
I think that they're saying it to say it, but at the end of the day, he's a goner, and I don't think that's such a bad thing. Now, on the Miller topic, though, here's my thing with this: is that if he did, I think you sign him for a 1-year deal, and you give him. I mean, let's just keep him at the same salary, maybe a little lower. Because I don't think that they have anyone that's ready to be the backup next year. I mean, Dostal, Eriksson Ek, unless they come. And that's the thing, is if he's on a 1-year deal, right, and let's say one of these young goalies shows out in training camp, that affords you the flexibility to play them or to bring them into your lineup. But with Miller, I think that he's been very good this year when he's been healthy. So I don't see a reason not to bring him back.
Yeah. But I'll say this on Miller. If he provides value to another team and he's willing to go to another team to try to win a cup, I mean, not saying it would make complete sense that they re-sign him in the offseason. He's an interesting guy that I think I could see them moving.
Right. Yeah. I don't see it happening because I think he has more value to this team as a member of it than as getting flipped for a third round or whatever he's going to bring in.
Yeah. All right. So this came in from our good friend George. Occasional guest on the show, says, why bring up great prospects into a terrible locker room when we all know that Randall is not going to play them?
Well, he has played them when they've been up,
Well, and I think
but I just think there's no point in bringing them
I
up
mean,
at this point in time.
my reasoning is to get them adjusted to the NHL game, get them going. I don't. I think
But
it.
what are they adjusting to? Being the worst defensive team in the league,
But
having to play in their own zone the entire game.
we saw it with Terry and Jones when they were with the team. It almost kind of seemed like it gave the team a shot in the arm a little bit. They started playing a
Yeah,
little bit better.
but they're still losing. So
All right. Puck Fan
I don't know.
101 says this team is going nowhere until they can purge themselves of the Perry Kessler contract. Is that even possible though?
I mean, I don't think Perry is tradable at this point in time, unless he has a strong end to the season. Maybe then he recoups some value, and a team would be interested in taking him on. I think with Perry, though, if this team wants to at least not completely bottom out in the coming years, I think it makes sense to keep him around. The cap is going up, and they're going to cut costs in other areas. He can still be a functional piece of this roster. The one that really needs to get sorted out is Ryan Kessler, because right now Ryan Kessler just barely played above 10 minutes tonight, and
Didn't look great doing it.
And I'm saying that that's his proper role. Do you really want to be paying a fourth liner almost $7 million? I think you need to have a sit down with Ryan Kessler this offseason, have a meeting with him, and say, look, what are we doing here? Right? We respect the career you've had. We respect the leadership you bring to this locker room. Unfortunately, as you are well aware, this is a business and we have to make hard decisions. We'd be happy to give you a scouting role within the franchise if you want to hang him up or go somewhere else. We want to give you the opportunity to go somewhere where you have a chance to win. And we understand you like the area. If you want to hang him up, we can work with you. We think you have a strong voice in the locker room. You can be good with your young guys. But right now, we're in the business of talent acquisition, and the contract, the business side of things, it's just holding us up.
Mm-hmm.
Either you want to retire or we're going to buy you out, but this is pretty much over. It's your call.
Yep. I don't foresee that happening, but I agree.
But that would be you have to strong arm him a little bit. I mean, because he's not going to do it on his own, right? He's not going to come out and say it. I'm sure he still wants his money. But to me, I tell him, look, we'll keep you employed. We'll keep you in the game. If you want to go elsewhere, we'll make that happen. But you're going to have to waive that no move clause. Like it sucks because players collectively bargained for this to happen, and he has all the rights to stand up for himself in that situation.
Yep.
But you kind of leave him no option. And again, it's not because I don't think he's a good person or that he doesn't have potentially a positive influence on the young guys. I just think it's a business. And sometimes you have to make cold-blooded decisions. And I think that's one of them that the Ducks have to make in order to just allocate that cap space any other positive way. Again, although Perry takes up a lot of cap space, I just think that there's enough positive in there to where you can live with it.
You could almost say right hashtag Perry is still good.
Exactly. But with Kessler, there's just none of that. He's a fourth liner right now, and that's not good enough for what you're paying him.
Yep. 100% agreed. The only thing I'll make mention of is this is the team that didn't want to buy out Kevin Bieksa to save some of their defensemen for the expansion draft. So,
if they've learned a damn thing from that, if they've learned anything from that, then they should do what I'm saying here.
Yep.
But what remains to be seen.
Yep, 100% agreed with you. There was another question that I wanted to ask you because it's going to be near and dear to your heart. Boom Snap Bam mentioned people have been saying Marc Bergevin has been watching some of the Ducks games. He has actually been there scouting some of them. Any potential trades that you could see there? Do you think that the Canadians are going to try to go after a Jakob Silfverberg? I mean, there's been rumors that have kind of floated around now that Bergevin was looking at trying to get Fowler maybe.
Right. I mean, the Canadians are in a really weird spot right now because they're still navigating the retool, right? As good as they've been this season, they are still in a place where they are needing to rebuild, bring in more young pieces, accumulate draft picks. And so it really is going to come down to how Marc Bergevin sees this team. He has been very adamant this season about not moving any futures, right? That the priority is the future. He even said this, if I have an opportunity, if it's a choice between the future and the present, I'm going future every single time. That being said, things have changed a little bit since that time. The team is on a winning streak. I think they have an opportunity tonight to pass Toronto in the standings. And so I mean, does he view that and say, why don't we just go for it? At this point, the draft pick is going to be in the 20s, the first rounder. If we can bring in a guy like a Cam Fowler who has term, right? It's not just like we're bringing him in as a rental. Maybe that has more value to Marc Bergevin. I think that at the end of the day, though, I don't see him making a move for a Fowler. Maybe a Silverberg, but I think that if he's interested in Silverberg, I don't think he'd be willing to pay the price that Bob Murray is looking for.
Yeah, because the price is
right, and I don't. So what I'm saying is I don't see it happening.
Yeah, because the price right now is going to be either a first round pick or a decent prospect, a pretty decent prospect.
Which you have been getting some pushback on.
I have, and I'll say this on that is that Brian Boyle getting a second round pick does set the market, because when you're a general manager and you're negotiating and you're having trade talks, you're going to bring that up and say, hey, look at this. Brian Boyle got a second round pick. Yes, you can say that's an overpay all you want, but I'm not going to accept any lower. And the only way that it's going to be less is if we start getting to deadline day and no one else is paying that price. But I think that there are going to be teams out there, especially a team like a Toronto Maple Leafs, for instance, that understand that this is a year that they need to go for it. This is a year that, quite frankly, due to their cap situation, that's going to be coming up because their guys coming off entry level deals, they need to go for the cup this year, and they have the cap.
Or even a Boston. I mean, Boston is hell bent on making a move, although they're in the Panarin Derby right now.
Yeah,
so
but
they're big game hunting.
I think that with the cap space the Leafs have, with a lot of different things that are in play, I think that they could benefit from having a Jakob Silfverberg on their team. Now, granted, they did just give up their first-round pick for Jake Muzzin, but if you were to try to get Timothy Liljegren out of there, I think that that could be a decent trade if you can do Liljegren, who was a first-rounder, a late first-rounder a couple years back. You get him for Jakob Silfverberg. I think that that's a fair trade for both sides. Yes, it may be an overpay for a rental, but
that's an overpay.
Teams overpay for rentals at the deadline. Would you say would you think that's equivalent to a first round pick?
Well, Toronto's first round pick is going to be the 27th, 28th pick.
Depending.
Well, depending. I guess you're right, but it's going to be low 20s. I don't know.
Because Liljegren was picked around there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Are we overvaluing him because he's a Leafs prospect?
Probably. I mean, that being said, the Marlies did win the Calder Cup last year. I don't know. I could see it's weird. The Ducks have already made a trade with Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh is right on that cusp in the playoff picture where I actually, because with Toronto, my problem is I just don't see the fit as much. I understand that they want to be all in, but I don't think...
I see the fit there.
Well, I know you see the fit, but what I'm saying is that with Silfverberg, I don't know if he really if he addresses this big need. With Pittsburgh, they're god-awful defensively. They actually, he would really help them. And he also can add offense, and he gives them more flexibility in their lineup. Now, with Pittsburgh, they've already given up so much to have the team that they do. I don't know if they're willing to make that deal again. Or, I just look at those bubble teams, because I think Silfverberg makes more sense for a bubble team than a team that's already pretty good. I don't know.
Oh, see, I disagree there. I think Silfverberg's a move you make if you're willing to give up a first-round pick. That's a move you make if you are looking to go all in on the season. Because a lot of the teams that are on the cusp of winning a cup, that are kind of loaded, they have their high-end talent. They don't need an Artemi Panarin, and they don't have, quite frankly, the cap space for an Artemi Panarin.
Right.
It's the teams that are
actually, there's no way Pittsburgh would do it, by the way. They only have their first rounder and then a fourth and a seventh this year.
I mean, Tampa's another team that could potentially use a Jakob Silfverberg.
I actually disagree there.
Okay.
I think Tampa is more in the business of adding a star than because I think their depth is fine, right? So
I just think that you add him to that roster. You add him to any roster, and it's a better team.
And I agree, but I just think it's hard to handicap the market for him because he's not a guy with a lot of players like a Jake Muzzin, for example. There's a clear-cut idea of what he is and where he fits for a lot of teams. With Jakob Silfverberg, it's kind of like, well, he's not really a goal scorer. He can kill penalties. He can kind of do everything, right? And so he fits on any team, but that also makes it harder to figure which team that would be.
True.
Because with the Leafs, for example, with Muzzin, it was obvious. They need help on D. with Silverberg, it's a little trickier. And
I
so,
think he provides something that forward group doesn't
sure,
completely have in terms of a defensively responsible winger.
sure. And that's fair. And again, I think he fits on any team. It's just going to come down to what the offers are.
Yeah.
I just think they should trade him. I understand he's been a good soldier. I understand that he's a positive guy in that locker room right now, but they need to get assets out of this season. They cannot just walk away from this empty-handed.
Yep.
So we'll see.
So let's hit these questions from Reddit. Scat Autotune said, I have a wild conspiracy theory that Bob Murray has dirt on the Samuel Ice and is keeping his drinking buddy Carlisle around long enough to get him a front office job. Am I crazy? Also, what do you guys drink in to bear the pain of the season? So
I don't want to speculate on that, but another thing I wanted to add about Silverberg, here's the reason I don't see him getting traded. Unless they want to move him to the left wing, which I guess is possible, but they're right wingers right now. Marner, Kapanen, Nylander, and Janssen. I mean, I don't think he's an upgrade over any of those guys outside of Janssen, maybe.
Yep.
So if you move him to the left side, I mean, Hyman, Marlowe, Brown, and Parr Lindholm. So maybe they switch him to the left. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we drinking to get through this? Right now, I'm sipping on some delicious Sprouts Blend dark roast coffee.
I had my coffee already this morning. I went for Trader Joe's cold brew, and I have water right now. But this is what I was drinking on the last show. It's, as I mentioned, the mango beer, India Pale Ale Mango from Nova Brazil Brewing Company in Chula Vista. There you go, people. It was good. I enjoyed it.
But I will be going out this afternoon to enjoy the beautiful day that is now clearing up. It was raining this morning, so I will be enjoying myself. Maybe I'll have a Miller Lite or two.
Yeah,
I think that's a great way to enjoy the day. Great way.
Yeah. All right, Bruno Dude said, one simple question: why? Do
you really want to know why?
We've talked a lot about why. It's sad though. I think it's sad, but positive, and this is my whole thing, is at least there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's 20 some odd games left in this season. The Ducks potentially could get a top pick in this draft that could reset the future of this franchise. And so that's kind of what I view as the positive with this. With every Ducks loss, the Ducks are getting closer and closer to that high pick that can help this team long term.
I mean, now it's starting to feel like a lock that they're going to have a top 5 pick.
Yeah. And so,
or at least a top 10. Another question I have for you, and this is going to be unrelated. I get to ask questions too.
Oh, wow.
Artemi Panarin changed agents, and he now has the same agent as Sergei Bobrovsky.
I saw that. Package deal?
Do you see it happening?
No. The agent has no say in trades.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, do you think that with Duchesne and Stone available, should Anaheim be thinking about one of those two players?
No, don't trade futures. Don't trade futures for a UFA. If in the offseason, sure. Don't trade futures for a UFA.
They'll have their chance. Okay, so fair enough. But with Mark Stone, I mean, he's a guy I would think about.
As a rental?
Well, maybe not as a rental, but as a UFA, because
as a UFA, sure.
He's the kind of guy that they need. I mean, any team could use him, but
they got to clear some space before that happens, though.
And that's where the buyout comes in.
Sure. All right. I think that's probably going to do it for questions. Fish asked what we think the Ducks' remaining win-loss record, or their win-loss record, will be for the remaining games. And I've been asked that a couple times now. I have no idea, to be honest. This team is I could say they'd lose every game and watch they go and win a couple because John Gibson comes in net and is back to where he was. I don't have a read for where the win-loss record would be, honestly.
Is it Tankathon time?
I think it's Tankathon time. You want to start?
I'm already running it on my own. The Ducks now have the 3rd best odds according to Money Puck.
And they have the 4th best odds just in terms of losses. So here we go. So I've turned it to the NHL mock draft in terms of where you get to see players. Let's see how long it takes. Jack Hughes, second time. There we go. I'm going to leave it there. They
Wait,
got
how do you get it to show the players?
hit mock draft at the top.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. There you go. Jack Hughes to the Ducks.
And
We're calling it now.
3rd and 4th are the Colorado Avalanche in mine. The 3rd and
Wow.
4th pick. They could.
Oh my God.
The Avalanche are going to get 2 really good prospects.
If they get a top 3 pick,
What if they get 1 and 2? What if they get Hughes and Kakko?
I don't think their own pick is going to be that high.
What if they get Hughes and Kakko somehow?
All right, I'll dare to dream. That would be revolting. Actually, do you think about trading one of them if you get those picks?
I would. If they can get John Gibson, like you've mentioned.
Yeah. Gibson for Hughes, John for Jack.
Yeah. All right, let's start wrapping this thing up. I'll leave this here for everyone to view as we're closing this thing out.
So that will do it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Hopefully it's beautiful wherever you are. Big shout out to our East Coast friends. Wishing you the best during this vortex, and our Pacific Northwest friends, I guess, because now the vortex has hit Washington State. So wherever you are, wishing you the best. Enjoy your weekend. As always, make sure to check us out on Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating and a review. Helps grow the show. We'll read it at the end of every episode. And of course, make sure to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/acpod. Here's the deal. For $5 a month, you get 2 bonus episodes where we dive deep into a topic that most of the time is going to be of your choosing. And now that we have hit the $200 mark in monthly donations, we've actually passed it. We are going to have a watch party. So if you're already a patron, make sure to head on over to the page. We're running a poll right now of when we're going to do this. There's a few options. Make sure to check that out. And if you're not yet a patron, but you want to go to a watch party where you can hang out with us and drink beer and have maybe some chicken wings, I don't know. Make sure to make a donation, make a monthly pledge. And we're going to have some fun here. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a goal of ours for a while, and we are very, very appreciative that we've managed to get there. And it's all thanks to you guys. Once again, thank you very much. Also, check us out on social media. I'm on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. Jake is on Twitter at ReindeerGames91. And, of course, AnaheimCalling.com at Anaheim Calling on Twitter. That will do it for us today, guys. Thanks again for listening. And we will talk to you after the Wednesday night matchup against the Vancouver Canucks. We'll talk to you then.
Bye.